Hey everyone, have you ever found yourself stuck in an endless loop of planning and thinking, but never actually doing? Gesture to self. Yeah, me too. Today we're diving into something that might be holding you back more than you realize. Overthinking. That's right, all that careful planning and analyzing might actually be your creativity's worst enemy. I used to think that planning everything meticulously was the key to success, but I've learned something surprising. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just start. Let me show you why. Before we jump in, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on more videos that could change the way you approach your creative process. We've all been there. You want to start that project, but first you need to research. Then you need to plan. Then you need to get feedback on your plan. Then you need to revise the plan. And suddenly, weeks have passed, and you haven't created anything. This is analysis paralysis, when overthinking freezes you in place. Your brain gets so overwhelmed with options and possibilities that it can't choose a direction. The most successful creators I know don't wait until they have every detail figured out. They start with a rough idea and let the work evolve organically. Here's something fascinating about creativity. It thrives in a state called flow. That's when you're so absorbed in creating that time seems to disappear. But here's the thing. Overthinking and perfectionism make flow impossible. When you're constantly second-guessing yourself or planning your next 5 moves, you can't enter that magical state where creativity flourishes. The most innovative ideas often come when you're just playing around without a rigid plan. Think about kids. They create without overthinking, and their imagination knows no bounds. When you overthink, you tend to get tunnel vision. You become so focused on the approach you've planned that you miss unexpected opportunities. Some of history's greatest innovations happened by accident or through improvisation. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin because he didn't clean his lab. Post-it notes came from a failed adhesive experiment. By planning too rigidly, you close yourself off to the happy accidents and serendipitous discoveries that often lead to breakthrough moments. Overthinking is exhausting. When you spend hours analyzing every possible outcome, you drain the mental and emotional energy you could be using for actual creation. Creative work requires enthusiasm and energy, but if you've spent all your mental resources on planning, you'll approach the actual work feeling depleted before you even begin. I've noticed that my best work happens when I come to it fresh and excited, not after I've overthought it to death. Here's an uncomfortable truth. While you're busy perfecting your plan, the world keeps moving. Trends shift, technology evolves, opportunities come and go. By the time you finish your perfect plan, it might no longer be relevant. This is especially true in creative fields like content creation, where timing can be everything. Sometimes an imperfect execution today is better than a perfect execution tomorrow. As the saying goes, done is better than perfect. Every time you get stuck in overthinking, you're reinforcing neural pathways that make creativity harder. You're literally training your brain to hesitate rather than create. Creativity is like a muscle that grows stronger with use. When you regularly jump into creation without excessive planning, you're building creative confidence. The most prolific creators have trained themselves to bypass overthinking. They've built the habit of diving in and figuring things out along the way. Let's get real for a second. Sometimes what we call thorough planning is actually fear in disguise. When we're afraid of failure or judgment, endless planning gives us a perfect excuse to postpone putting our work out there. I'm not procrastinating, I'm preparing. Sound familiar? But creation always involves risk. There's never a point where the risk of failure disappears completely. The most successful creators have simply learned to create despite their fears. When you plan everything meticulously, you rob yourself of one of the most enjoyable parts of creativity. Discovery. There's something magical about starting a project and watching it evolve in ways you never anticipated. Some of my favorite creative works started as one thing and transformed into something entirely different during the process. overthinking steals these moments of surprise and delight. It replaces discovery with execution, which is far less fulfilling. History's greatest innovators share something in common. They were willing to try many approaches, even when they weren't sure which would work. Thomas Edison famously found thousands of ways not to make a light bulb before finding one that worked. If he had spent all his time planning the perfect approach, we might still be reading by candlelight. True innovation rarely comes from perfect planning. It comes from experimentation, iteration, and learning from what doesn't work. Here's the most important reason of all. Life is too short to spend it planning instead of living. Every day you spend overthinking is a day you could have spent creating something real. Even if it's imperfect, even if it's just a small step forward, the regret of not creating will always be greater than the regret of creating something imperfect. Trust me on this one. So there you have it. 10 reasons why overthinking can hamper your creativity and stop you from taking action. Analysis paralysis freezes you in place. Perfectionism kills creative flow. You miss fresh perspectives and opportunities. You experience emotional burnout before you even start. The world changes while you plan. You train your brain to hesitate rather than create fear. Disguises itself as planning. You miss the joy of discovery. Innovation requires experimentation. Life is simply too short. This doesn't mean you should never plan. Some planning is valuable. But there's a difference between strategic thinking and overthinking. Here's my challenge to you. Take that project you've been planning forever and just start it today. Not when you feel ready, because you might never feel completely ready. Let me know in the comments. What project have you been overthinking? I'd love to hear what you're finally going to take action on after watching this video. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and don't forget to subscribe for more content that helps you unlock your creative potential. Remember, the world needs your creativity more than it needs your perfect plan. So go create something amazing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.